Hello my friends, my name is Tim Johnson. In this video today, I want to talk about the best ways to come off opiates, to stop taking opiates altogether. And these are from my own experiences as someone who's addicted to opiates for many years and tried many different ways to stop taking them. In the last video I made a couple of days ago about opiate addiction, a lot of people from that video have asked me and sent me the amounts they're taking, etc., the best ways to stop, which is why I'm making this one today. I get asked it quite a lot because there are different ways and it depends on different things. And as I say, because I was sort of addicted for so long, I tried all of them along the way, or certainly most of them along the way. So I'll just share my own experiences with you on each way. I'm not saying there's any better way than any other, if you like. Just pick the way that's best for you, really, based on a lot of things, based on the amount you're using, the drug you're using, the length of time you've been using it, your age, your circumstances. Many different things will determine how you go around doing this. The thing to make very clear is it doesn't matter what age you are when you decide to do this, because the last time I did it, I was 55 years old. I'm 62 now. And although I've had issues around alcohol since then, I'm now totally sober and remained sober from opiates since those 7 years ago. Anyway, when I got addicted, first of all, to opiates, if you look back at the last video, and please subscribe, it just helps more people see the videos, and hopefully my experiences can help somebody out there. When I started taking them, it started with pain pills, as it does with many people. The problem with addiction, certainly opiate addiction, is you're fighting thousands of years of evolution to your brain. Your brain is programmed and has evolved to want and crave reward. It's set up that way. It's your genetic makeup, if you like. And the reward chemical, as I mentioned in the last video, is dopamine. One of the main ones. It's what gives us this feeling of well-being, warmth, euphoria, happiness, you name it. That's the main chemical for it. And you have many receptors in your brain, many areas that release dopamine. When you first take an opiate for whatever reason, and some people are genetically more prone to this than others. There's no doubt about it. Science has proved that now. Addiction of all types can run in the genes. It can run in families. There's an argument to be had. Sometimes that may be partly learnt behaviour, but there is a genetic, certain genetic makeup, a shape within the brain that is inherited from our parents and grandparents and so on and so on, which makes us more susceptible, perhaps than others, to addiction. So you're fighting all this sort of evolution all the time, from the start, and maybe genetics from the start. Then on top of that, maybe within your life somewhere, you've got some massively painful stuff that's happened to you. And that can be terrible things. It can be loss and grief. It can be abuse of all types, physical and sexual. Many, the list can go on. It can be circumstances that you're currently living through, such as not being able to afford food and heating, or not having a roof over your head, or pain, essentially, of all types. So there you go. You've got this pain going on. You've perhaps got genetic disposition, all sorts of stuff, circumstances surrounding you, and evolution on top of all that. So when you first take an opiates, if you've not taken them before, and I know what it was like for me, when I first took them. And they were pain pills, strong pain pills. It was a feeling of that all is well in the world. All of a sudden, all these problems disappeared. I was wrapped up in this warm glow. And that's very seductive, you know. And if you're predisposed to addiction and to have pain to hide from's the wrong word, to numb, to anaesthetize yourself against, then you will want to feel like that all the time. You will crave it. And here lies the problem. And opiates, more than perhaps any other drug, I mean, many drugs create euphoria and well-being, but opiates have this extreme power, if you like, over your mind and your body. Once you've had that first hit, however you have it, there's an issue, certainly if you're predisposed to it. And as I said before, many people who have severe pain and are prescribed opiates and don't have any of this predisposition can take them as prescribed, and they're really helpful. Of course they are. I'm not saying that for a second. But those of us who struggle around addiction will crave that first feeling again and again and again and again. The tolerance levels build up and build up and build up until your brain stops. The opiates sit on the receptors in your brain, and your brain literally stops making dopamine. So, or any of those feelings of euphoria, you're totally reliant on the opiate for, and the quantities become more and more. The drug becomes stronger and stronger. The cravings and the withdrawal, you know, the physical dependence and the, you know, psychological dependence are massive. It's not like anything else that I've ever experienced. It's awful. And when you go through that first withdrawal, if you decide to come off, you'll know how horrific that can be. And there's many videos on this channel that go, I'm not going to talk about withdrawal in detail today. I'm just going to talk about ways of coming off, which I'll do now. Sorry to ramble on, but I just wanted a bit of background. So the withdrawal videos, I think there's about, probably on opiates, there could be 7 or 8 on this channel that go into great depth on the ways to approach withdrawal, if you like, the actual withdrawal itself, however you decide to come off the opiates. So the different ways. Now the first way that I experienced, the first withdrawal I ever had, if you like, was via Subutex, Suboxone. And it was after I'd come out of rehab, if you like, and relapsed. And because when I went into rehab, it was for alcohol and opiates. And I'd had Subutex in there for about 4 days, a very quick reducing dose. And then I was you're sort of left to cold turkey. You have a sleeping pills for the first 2 or 3 nights. And I think a couple of Valium were involved, and that's it. So then you have to sort of go cold turkey, you know, for those week or so after. It's very unpleasant. I wasn't prepared for that. But after that, and after a relapse, I went to the community drugs team, and my life had become chaos. As you know, how exhausting and how tiring feeding an opiate addiction is, however you feed it and whatever you feed it with, whether it's doctor shopping, whether it's shopping in pharmacies, all over the place because you're banned from certain pharmacies, as it was with me for a while, whether it's chasing drug dealers for heroin or whatever it is, or pills, you know, whatever it is you're chasing for, it's exhausting. So my life was chaos. I'd lost so much. I'd sold and pawned jewellery. You know, I was running around like an idiot just to feed my habit, and that wasn't to get high or feel euphoria. It was literally to stay well for several hours until I had to feed the habit again. And you'll all know that feeling, those of you who've experienced it. And it's frightening and it's horrific and it's exhausting. So I'd heard good things about Suboxone, and I wanted to put my life sort of back in order. Now, as I say, each one of these things that I'll talk about now, is dependent on your use and whether you can get a doctor to prescribe you Suboxone, or whether you can go to a community drugs team and get it through that, or whether you go to rehab and get introduced to it through that. That's only down to your own circumstances, really, and your own health service that surrounds you. The good thing about Suboxone is that it has naloxone and buprenorphine in it. Now the buprenorphine sits on your opiate receptors and takes away all the cravings. You don't get if it's used properly, Suboxone, you don't get any euphoria or any high from it or anything like that. It literally just removes the cravings and keeps you out of withdrawal. The naloxone that's in it will, if you take opiates while you're taking Suboxone, it'll kick you straight into withdrawal. It's like Narcan, basically, and it's quite a useful deterrent, that, because I didn't abuse it, so I was on it for 2 years, and people say things like methadone, Suboxone, Subutex, whatever it is that your substitute is, it's very difficult to come off. Now that's true to a certain extent because it's a long taper, but it has to be medically supervised. Really, it's not something that I would recommend. You can do it yourself, and you can go down at whatever pace you want. That's entirely up to you and the way you feel and how your life is. What Suboxone allowed me to do was regain control of my life, basically, to put my house in order, to take a breath, to take me out of the madness of addiction, and give me some breathing space. And for that, it was invaluable because I did put my house back in order, and it was important for that. I had my Suboxone reduction and withdrawal medically supervised. So there's a reducing dose, and it was over a period of months. So the fear around the actual stopping is more to do, because when you get down to the microdoses, like the microgram doses, which you do, literally dissolves in a second in your mouth. The main fear then is living life totally clean. It's like there's like a hurdle to jump, if you like. You're not necessarily going to have any sort of major withdrawal if you do it properly. Some people rush it now, and methadone's another story. Methadone stays in your system for a long time, and it can be really unpleasant, the withdrawal from that. I've never had methadone, but I do know people, certainly met them in rehab, that were withdrawing from methadone, and it's not pleasant. I would recommend Suboxone as definitely a substitute, and a medical supervision of reduction, which is slow over a period. And then you need to make that jump where you stop altogether. And you may have, I didn't really notice anything at the end of it, I've got to be honest with you, even after 2 years of quite, I was started on 24 milligrams, which is quite a high dose, and reduced, I had that certainly for a year and a half, just over a year, and then reduced over the next year down to nothing, basically. And I felt as though I had a bad cold for a day or so, which for opiate withdrawal is fine. That was me, that was my experience though, so you need to make the choice yourself whether that suits you. Another way of doing it, and I've tried this way, is your own taper. Someone sent me a list in an email the other day of everything they were taking over a month period, and it was a lot, and this is where the issue arises, because it was a mixture of stuff as well. There was hydrocodone, there was Tylenol 4, there was a mixture of drugs, if you like, all sort of pain pills, but different types of pain pills, and there is an issue around that. So doing your own taper from the drugs that you're on. Now, if you're shooting heroin, pinning heroin and doing all of that sort of stuff, then that's a different story altogether. I'm talking more about pain pills now. If you're pinning heroin, I recommend that Suboxone or methadone is the route you take. But if it's all pain pills you're doing, then you can do a reduction. The problem lies is the amounts you're taking and the mixture you're taking, and also the discipline around reducing. Because if you're prescribed something like Suboxone and you're doing it under supervision and you're regularly getting tested, there's a discipline around that keeps you on the straight and narrow, or most people on the straight and narrow. If you're doing your own taper and you have access to all these pills at all times, you've not binned them, you're just tapering down. You know, you've always got more pills there, if you know what I'm saying. The discipline around that, it's like being an alcoholic and having like half a dozen bottles of vodka in your cupboard. As soon as something bad happens in your life, or you're going out through a bad day, or you're feeling like fuck it, if you like, you're going to reach for those pills because they're there. It's as simple as that, to make yourself feel better. So the discipline of doing, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying that I tried to do it and I couldn't. If you're taking large quantities of pain pills, yes, you can reduce, but you've still got that quantity to hand, or can get that quantity to hand. And the discipline around that is immense. If you can do it, I take my hat off to you, and it can be done. The safe way to do it is in tiny, tiny steps. If you set unachievable goals and take chunks off the amount you're taking, you're going to sort of be in a low level withdrawal all the time, and it's not going to work, because you're going to reach for something that's going to make you feel more comfortable. So that's another way. It's not a way I would recommend. Now, another way I've tried is cold turkey. And there's a couple of videos on this channel that document that experience. The last time I did it, when I stayed clean, was cold turkey. So you have to be aware again of what you're taking and around the safety of doing that. On the whole, you know, I mean, when you're kicked into, if you're drinking industrial quantities of alcohol and you go into alcohol withdrawal syndrome, there is a small chance that you can have a seizure, or your heart can stop. Or with opiate withdrawal, it's slightly different. But there are certain drugs that you have to be careful with, such as tramadol. And again, there's videos on the channel about that. If you're taking tramadol, then to stop suddenly without reducing dosage can be dangerous. So you need to consult a doctor around that. Other types of pain pills, you can, if you like, a good way of doing it and jumping cold turkey is to do it over a week. So just to make sure that you've got less than a week's supply in, if you like. So reduce over 4 or 5 days, and on the 6th day have a plan in place, and that's the day you stop. So it's a sort of not total stop, but it is a cold turkey in a sense. But you've not got access to any more pills, but you're taking a reducing dose over 4 or 5 days, like, because that's all you've got. And then on the Friday, you know that's the day you're going to stop, because you've got the weekend ahead, and you maybe booked a couple of days off early the following week. And then there's a video on how to do that on this channel on full opiate withdrawal, and how to prepare for it, which you need to do, because you won't do anything when you're in withdrawal. Now, doing it that way, I found this is my own personal view, obviously, might be different for you, the best way, because it was horrible for those 4 or 5 days. And after I'd stopped, I went in the cold turkey. But it's something I never wanted to do again. I just wanted that to be the end of it. And it was like closure. When I stopped that day, you know, I made a commitment that would be it. And I've never taken opiate pills since. So, you know, for me, that was the best way, and getting through those days. And then, obviously, there's a period then, and you could get post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I had some of that. There's a video on that on the channel as well, and how to get through that. But basically, it's a case of putting your life in order afterwards, and eating cleanly and exercising and doing all the things you need to do, whether it's in the rooms or whatever, when you finally got through that withdrawal, which you can do. If I can do it at 55, and I wasn't in the greatest of shapes, trust me, when I did it, then you can definitely do it. So they're from my point of view, the three ways really. And I would definitely recommend, for some people, the Suboxone way, methadone if you're injecting, or all the rest of it's probably the best way for you. And the taper yourself, not so much. And then the quick 3 or 4 day taper, and then cold turkey is the one which finally worked for me. So the message I want to get across here is never give up. It's never too late. I tried many times. I did over many years until it was the right time. And when I finally knew I had to surrender to it, I knew if I carried on, I'd just be dead, and I would lose what I had left, basically. And when it comes to that point, then you have to make a choice, and that was the best choice for me to make. So I hope that's been useful for you. Carpe Diem. Make today the day you change your life today. Much love to you all. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.